freedom from want. And what we chose to do with my colleague Eric Lisa over here, we chose to do our town halls in circle. We felt because they were being based on the four freedoms, freedom from fear, freedom from want, and then today will be freedom of worship, and tomorrow, for those who are still here, we will be doing freedom of speech. And we wanted them all to be in circle. We felt that we did not want to have a dais with a community of people feeling like they needed to ask questions or didn't have answers, but that we were all experts in these freedoms and in these longings and desires and co-creators. So the first one that we did, freedom of fear, we worked with fear of the oppressed. We also had present Donna Hilton, a woman who is an author and was incarcerated for 27.5 years. We had artist, performer, and producer Al Black with us. And we had the community. And we all shared a lot of conversation around gender identity and learning and having patience with each other in terms of learning each other's pronouns and understanding, and how to be in dialogue and how to be in gratitude and how to be accountable. And then yesterday we had freedom from want, where we had Dolores Huerta, Emiliana Guerreca, and Edna Chavez, 3 generations of Latino organizers present with us. We had Pete White and the LA Can Freedom Singers giving us poetry and music and dance and performance. And we also had Ronnie Marks speaking about slow medicine, and her husband James, who is on the forefront of the single-payer healthcare movement. Talking about equity, talking about how we can come together as a community to share stories with each other, which will help us move through much of our trauma, to spend time together in circle, and today's will be freedom of worship, where we have some amazing people that will be here for us as guides, and I'm not going to name them all, you have to come and meet them. And then we have another one tomorrow, which will be freedom of speech, which will also be equally as captivating and interesting. I just want to acknowledge and thank the sign language interpreters that have been joining us for all of the sign language and helping us and supporting us, and we're deeply grateful and gratitude that we can include all listeners. So people came up to me and kept thanking me, and I kept saying you're welcome, of course, and I kept thanking them back, because I think one of the core values that we came up with was how we need to show up for one another and to be in circle more often and make opportunity for ourselves to share our stories and our experiences. And I think a town hall and reclaiming what that might look like and could be like was something that people are interested in taking to their cities everywhere, and creating smaller groups or larger groups or whatever your capacity is, to create space and to hold space for people to share ideas and share their hearts and their history and ancestors. I haven't gotten any suggestions yet, so I'm looking forward to getting some suggestions on how we can do better or how we can participate with you in your city or in your state. Sankofa is really excited to be a collaborator with Four Freedoms, and I hope you guys completely enjoy the rest of this day. Those of you who will be staying here, it's going to be an exciting and interactive event. And that was the other thing too, was that we're making all of the town halls interactive so that everyone can take action in time, in space, together on site. So I hope you take this model and do them in your own homes and in your own communities and share them with everybody. Thank you.
So now I'd like everyone are standing up to acknowledge the remarkable report backs that we heard today. When we envisioned this session, we had no idea that we would hear poetry, that we would sing together, that we would have a theater performance, that we would learn so much from each other. And I
And what I would like for us to do as we begin is to take a deep breath in and exhale love. And take a look at who you're with, who you've come with, who's sitting next to you, who's across from you, who you'll be able to share with later your feelings of what transpires, or deepen conversations and dialogues of what you feel moved and lifted by, or what's heavy on your heart. We do have some folks in our circle who are represented in one of the Four Freedoms photographs. So let me very quickly tell you about those. Let me also, as I did earlier, but I want to make sure for those who have just joined us, I want to make sure that we acknowledge our ancestors and the sacred ground that we are on, the Tongva Chumash land of California, and of Los Angeles in particular, and that as we walk on burial grounds everywhere. And so I just want us to hold that space as we walk through the world with tremendous privilege, many of us. I often ask a friend of mine, when I see him, I say, "How you doing?" And he just looks at me, he says, "I ain't dead and I ain't in jail." Oh my word. Shit, goddamn, excuse my language. So, yes, we are gathered here today to explore what freedom of worship means to us. Four Freedoms, along with other collaborators, did a photographic project, a photographic essay, where we reclaimed Norman Rockwell's Four Freedoms, and we did photographs of his paintings that he did under commission from Roosevelt, that Roosevelt ended up using to sell war bonds, for war bonds. And so, in true, beautiful Norman Rockwell fashion, many of those depicted in those images of freedom from fear, freedom from want, freedom of worship, and freedom of speech are white people. I would say that they're potentially of different socioeconomic backgrounds, but they're white. And we wanted to reclaim those concepts of freedom and show the diversity of the landscape of our communities and our country and our world. And so we did that. We did a photographic essay. We took all these photographs, we showed them around, we put them out on social media, and Time magazine was moved and took freedom of worship and put it on the cover of Time magazine. Yeah, that's cool. We appreciate that they saw the value in having the dialogue. And let me ask, if you were on the cover of the Time magazine photograph, could you please rise? Awesome. Thank you. And if you were in any of the other 4 freedoms photographs, whether it was freedom from fear, freedom from want, freedom of speech, and freedom of worship, will you rise? Is anyone else here who's in any of those photographs? Thank you. I was also in this. And we're going to take a picture after of everyone in the everyone here. Why not? But we're really looking to also take a picture today of those who were previously in the photographs. And so, yeah. So what I want to do is I'm going to hand the mic over to my dear sister in just a moment. And after we get grounded in this space together, and while we get grounded in this space together, you'll notice that on your seat there is a question. And the question is for you to consider. And Claudia is going to tell me to do something. And yes, we would very much like to encourage people to come to the inner part of the circle instead of sitting on the outside. We want you to stay accountable to us and come forward. Come inside, come the inner circle. Be here now. Thank you, Ram Dass. Who we can talk about a little bit today too, if you want. There's some empty seats here in the front. Can someone come and have... Beautiful. Let's take in another deep breath, shall we?
Let's breathe again together. And release it to... We're just saying... Feel that resonate in your body. Take a breath in. Release it to... So that was a test to see if y'all could sing. You passed. Woke up this morning with my mind stayed on freedom. I woke up this morning with my mind. It was stayed on freedom. I woke up this morning with my mind stayed on freedom. Hallelujah. 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 Okay, so you got your parts? I just gave it to you. That's your part. Now we're going to all sing together. So when I grew up singing that song, we were singing, woke up this morning with my mind stayed on Jesus. Anybody remember that? Uh-huh. Okay. And during the Civil Rights Movement, that song was repurposed with the idea of freedom in mind. And so it just works out. It worked out. That's what we're going to be doing. We have the Voices Raised Los Angeles Vocal Collective for Social Justice. They're here. They're going to sing with me, and they'll be singing your parts. So we'll get them. Woke up this morning with my mind stayed on freedom. Woke up this morning with my mind. You can clap. Stayed on freedom. Woke up this morning with my mind. Stayed on freedom. Hallelujah. 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 Okay, do we have an extra microphone for our bass singer? Because him is here. And we want him to be heard. This is giving you a little extra time. So the words are, woke up this morning with my mind. What? Woke up this morning with my mind. Oh, we got melody here. Woke up this morning with my mind. Hallelujah. 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 Oh, rising and shining with my mind. Stay on freedom. Yes, I'm rising and shining with my mind. Stay neighbor with your mind. Keep your mind. Keep your mind. Keep your mind. Keep your mind. Say, hey. Hallelujah. 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 Well, I'm walking and talking with my mind. Walking and talking with my mind. Got my mind. Got my mind. Got my mind. Walking and talking. Hallelujah. 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 Now we're going to walk it out. This is how they did it. And some are going to walk. Walk. Come on and walk. Walk. Come on and walk. Walk. Put your mind on freedom. Walk. Walk, come on and walk, walk, come on and walk, walk, put your mind on freedom, whoa, walk, walk, let's talk about it, walk, come on, talk, talk, come on and talk, talk, come on and talk, talk, put your mind, oh, come on and talk to me, baby, talk to me, whoa.
Say what now? Woo! Yes, I hear everybody go, woo! Woo! Right on, right on, right on. Thank you, Miss Arne. Thank you. Round of applause. Oh, so happy right now. So here we are together. So take a look around. And what we're going to do before we get into is we have a set of markers here. So I would love for you when you're ready to come forward and take a marker and please go to one of these posters or prompts and write in a word or a phrase that you feel best expresses where you're at right now about those prompts. Does that make sense? Is anyone confused? Raise hand. All right, so feel free. There's a few freedom of signs over here, if someone wants to fill them in. There's also some over here. Here we are. On this wall here. So, I'm loving people who are so generous, and I'm sorry that some of the markers are dry. The markers I have for this workshop are here, so we generously got these, and so we'll make do. Those of you who have written something, please come and find your seat. You can return the pens back into the center, thank you. In. Let's take in a deep breath to that. Love, a power greater than myself. God, His infinite mercy, wisdom, and justice. Love and kindness. We are all beloved. Honor and order in the universe. Happiness. In a power greater than I am that lives in me and all of us. Another prompt. What or who do you have faith in? Let's take a deep breath in that. Our resilience, my power to overcome, righteousness, future of humanity, human connection, kindness and compassion, righteousness, that we will always try again. Where is your joy? Let's take a deep breath into that. My soul sourced in infinite love and light, in letting go, in the air, in truth, honoring my ancestors' roots, culture, and identity. And then it says, what is community? Let's take a breath into that. You and me equals we. Love and peace. Family, blood, or chosen, the spaces where I feel free and safe to grow and love. All of us dwelling as one, belonging and being seen, a circle of safety. And I didn't read them all on each of the boards, but I'm just reading a few. This one is, what is spirituality to you? Let's take a breath into that. Basic human need. Getting in touch with basic human goodness, song, oneness beyond myself, centering, connecting, and grounding myself, forgiving others and forgiving myself. So let's all take in a deep breath again together. Now on your seats, you had a question. And if you didn't have a question, raise your hand. Anyone else need a question? Okay, great. You need a question? Hold on. All right, now, my two lovely collaborators, Claudia Peña and Eric Wisa, they're going to scribe for us. So there's a number next to your question. Not too quickly, but not in any specific form. I want us to just popcorn your answer to the question in a word or a very short phrase. And you need to say the number first. So, like, whatever the question is, let's say it's number 1 on there. 1, and then the answer. And then make sure you can read, like don't overlap too much. Let's see if we can be mindful of sharing the mic and not literally, but just in terms of, so they can hear what you're putting out. And we're just gonna scribe each of the questions with the answers that you give. Okay, thank you.
Can I make a suggestion? Sure. Can we balance out the sheets of paper here so that way she's not overbearing? Sure. He has one and you have three. Well, I just wanted to call it out.
It's interesting, no one was told necessarily where to go. Oh, actually I did, maybe I did. But yeah, I didn't put up the papers. It's good. I'm glad. I'm feeling a little defensive.
Thank you.
I just want to share that. I'm stepping into my fear of defensiveness. It's what I've been called to do, step into my fear. All right, anyone?
Eight, during this time when people in the U.S. report going to a place of worship less often than in decades past, what is replacing that practice?
So what's your answer?
Yoga, meditation, and mindfulness.
Number 8.
Yoga, meditation, and mindfulness. You don't have to read the question, you can just, we'll read them later, but thank you.
I'm also number 8. And what I thought about is just that even though some people there is no spiritual connection, I was in that place for a long time where you're just going through the days. And I think without any foundation of faith, it's different things for different people. Without any foundation of faith for different people, it's just one of those things that becomes you just going through life every day without any formal direction. And it saddens me to say that, while I do think that for spiritual people, they are replacing going to a place of worship or church with their own form of connection with things greater than themselves. But for I think a lot of people, it isn't being replaced by anything in particular, and that's sad.
So nothing.
Nothing. Anyone else?
I have number 8, and it's also for me being replaced with small groups of people gathering together, that like-mindedness, where friends are saying, "Oh, come on over," or watching. Since a lot of the churches these days are streaming, people gather together in their own homes, and then they have discussions about what they see or hear, or want to do something else, or gather in meditation.
Also number 8, worry.
Any number.
So for number 7, my answer would be, it's a question would be, what does your spiritual practice tell you about death and afterlife? And through my own practice, I've learned it's self-liberating, it's freedom. Yes, we die, but our energy is among us, and that's something that living in Puerto Rico, she communicates with us, the energy of our ancestors. We feel them with the rhythms of the drums, with connecting with our family. So it's just the cycle just keeps going, and it's beautiful.
I had number 7 as well, and I would just say that faith tells me that there is something in afterlife. There is something after death. I do believe that our energy is eternal. But I also don't want to rest on that here and now. And I don't want to just seek joy in heaven or seek salvation and freedom in the afterlife. I have to live that and practice that daily.
My question is number 1. What does your spiritual practice look like? And mine looks like a walk on the beach, or meditation, or just being joyful with my friends.
My question is number 1, and my spiritual practice looks like beauty beyond imagination.
I have question number 3, which is how does science inform your spirituality? And for me, this question is very difficult because I spent the first 23 years of my life, or from the age of 4 to 23, being very highly involved in the Christian church. And, the verse of, you shall know the truth and the truth shall set you free. I believed that I knew a truth and a truth to hold on to. And through the study of social psychology, I began to question a lot of the things that I believed in a certainty way. But I also know from personal experience that there's an undeniable sort of universal truth that all of these religions are getting at in a certain way that connects us as humanity. So I guess science both completely shook my foundation of what I believed, but also brought me to a questioning and an exploration of a more scientific method of going, well, what are the hypotheses of how all of these ideas from different religions, places, people, cultures, and what does it say about a version of truth, or of what truth is as a whole?
I have question 6. What's the difference between religion and spirituality? And I want to answer this question because it's a hard one for me to answer, and so I want to try. I'm coming at it from an approach where I am an active and consistent member of a religious community, but I also would consider myself a deeply spiritual person. And I don't think these things are in conflict with each other, but I think they have to be reorganized with one another, maybe. I think often when we look at what religion has become in many instances, it's something that is being manipulated by power and greed and the sort of the clutches of things that we can see in every sort of facet of our society. Religion is not exempt from this, because human beings are not exempt from this. But I think the difference, if we look at it in sort of maybe in an ideal, is that spirituality is the boundless and the endless and the eternal and the universal, and religion is the way of making sense of it, because we can't understand what infinity is. It is something, if we try to approach an understanding of it, we are always getting further and further away. It keeps getting further away from us. So maybe religion is a way of making sense of what we might be able to understand of what infinity could be.
I had 2 questions because one was lost by my skirt. So one is have your own, and they're linked together, have your own spiritual views become more fixed or more malleable over time. And the second, that was 2. The other one is 10. What do morality and religion have to do with each other? And I really resonate with what our sister just said because I was raised in an extremely Mexican Catholic household. And so if someone were to ask me when I was 5 what my religion was, I would say Catholic. And now if someone were to ask me what my religion is, I would say love. Because in reality, and coming in with morality, religion, I feel, seeks to understand what we can never fully understand. And in that way, the divine and love and morality being rooted in how do we interact with each other as love beings is beyond any human capacity to categorize or to label or even to put into words, because the universe and the creation of the universe and the creation of the universe is within each and every one of us is so magnificent and beauty unimaginable that I would say that what morality and religion have to do with each other is, while religion can be human attempts to understand or to group morality is something that can flow and transcend any maybe ego-based or control-based ways of dividing when in reality we're all one together in that infinite love and light.
I have question 4. What is the thread common to all spiritual practices or beliefs? And I believe that like the common thing, like not all religions have a God, but like all religions have something or someone that they believe in that tells them to do something that is the right thing or that they believe is the right thing to do.
So I have question 6. What's the difference between religion and spirituality? I honestly struggled a lot with this question, and I think I'm kind of coming to why, and for me it's actually an issue of language and the way that things are translated. Our scripture is in Arabic, which is not in English. I mean, it's not a Romance language, and so when I look at these words, it puts me in my paradigm of a kind of Western idea of separation of spirituality and religion. And in the Arabic language, there's not a distinction like this. And so I can't really answer this question just because the word in Arabic, deen, or iman, means your state of being and your way of life. And I don't know how to categorize that within religion and spirituality, and I think even the way that language is set up, to me, almost feels like it's meant to kind of pit them against each other in a way that I think it builds some sort of wall or divide, and I don't think I can answer that one.
I am number 10. What does morality and religion have to do with each other? It all depends on how religion is defined. For me, growing up, religion was defined as separation, that I am separate from others, I am better than others, I have the truth, and anyone who disagrees with me is wrong. And I have evolved to understand now, so I'm with you there, that religion that I embrace now is connectivity, and that we are all one, and there is no separation, and there is no best religion. There just is, and that religion for me is love, and that affects my morality by something that all religions share in common, and that is that we want to treat each other the way we want to be treated, with love and compassion and generosity and forgiveness.
I have number 7, which is what does your spiritual practice tell about death and afterlife? I'm an indigenous person, and we consider life is on a continuum, but when we look at the physical body, we're born of woman, and we return to our earth mother or our grandmother. But in our afterlife, we continue on that circle of life with our ancestors in that continuum that never stops. And that's where the spirit goes. So we look at it as 2 elements, physical and the spiritual as the essence of our bodies.
Number 5, what was my relationship with spirituality growing up? Conflicted, because I grew up, both my parents were very Catholic, but alcoholism and child abuse, and so it was distorted, judgmental. Yeah.
I have question number 9. Who or what is God? So this is a double-edged sword for me. I'm indigenous, who went through 12 years of Catholic education. So that 12 years of Catholic education actually cemented my belief in my indigenous spirituality. So in indigenous spirituality, we don't have a God. We have a creator. And Creator invokes hope, it invokes life, it invokes, peace, it invokes unity. To us, when you say the word God, it invokes punishment, it invokes laws, it invokes numerous emotions. So who or what is God? God is a non-sexed being that we have no ability to understand.
Mine was question number 1, what does your spiritual practice look like? And it has many forms, prayer, meditation. I used the internet last night. I was watching a spiritual teacher in India and how fortunate to be able to do something like that. But the basis for it is really to be a beneficial presence on the planet.
I have number 10 as well. What do morality and religion have to do with each other? And me personally, I believe religion is a man-made concept, and I believe that relationship to whatever creator or God that you believe in is more so what we put on religion. And with that being said, I feel like belief has a lot to do in common with morality and religion. Because I know someone mentioned like being brought up in a certain way, you realize that certain things are real. And I believe in belief. And whatever you believe in with passion, it becomes true to your life.
I also have number 10, what do morality and religion have to do with each other? And I'm so glad you said what you did, because I think in some ways I define religion as something that you live, not just something that you are. And so in terms of how that relates to morality, when thinking about this question, it made me think that some people live religion in a very different way than other people do, and often people use it as a moral compass and think of it as a tool for being kind to one another, to learning from one another, to being building a better community. And then some people use it as a tool for hurting people and harming people, and I think in that way morality can get lost in religion and how people live their religion. So I think that it's a really tricky relationship that religion and morality have with one another, and it comes in how you live, practice, define, experience, and develop the relationship you have with your religion over time.
So we'll have one more share.
Sean, yeah, hi. The difference between religion and spirituality, I also got that same question. And what was that word you said, deen or iman? It was a lifestyle, right? Yeah, that when you said that, I also was understanding my own differences between religion and spirituality, and I was thinking about how often I get to that place of, do I even care anymore? That place of what am I doing though in the meantime in this world that exists right now, and all the debates and all the understandings I've come to research about every faith that I've come into contact with to get to that place. Well, what am I doing and how am I treating people and what's my lifestyle like? So I've known the friends of mine that are so into the Bibles and the books, and they don't treat people like they want to be loved in this faith. And I've seen that for me at least, love, that spirituality of love that means acceptance to me, has always equated to whatever your belief is, I'm gonna love you. And it was a lot easier for me to understand that lifestyle for me, kind of connects to that. So I think that's my main difference between religion and spirituality is kind of the doing in spirituality, and the religion is kind of the belief and the ideas I believe. So that's where I'm at so far. Thank you.
Thank you all for sharing so much. And if you have a spiritual practice and foundation, foundation meaning their own foundation in spiritual practice, and I would love for them to share with us and introduce themselves and share with us some of their reflections on what they've heard from everyone, and also a bit about certainly introduce yourselves and who you are and of what faith or spiritual practice you ascribe, and you can all share.
Okay, make the indigenous person go first. Okay, I'm quite comfortable with that. My name is LydiaPonce, and I'm so humbled and honored to be with every single one of you because I kind of want to just live here and not go out there because this is something so transformative. I am a member of American Indian Movement. Growing up and seeing the civil rights, black and white on TV, moved me beyond because my brother taught me the truth. I'm learning what they taught me at the public schools every day. And so American Indian Movement was responsible for giving us indigenous people our rights to pray, and our ceremonial items came out. And if you take a look at history, the way that it moved east to west, by the time they got here, they knew how to kill us faster, rape and pillage and plunder. So I sit here as an indigenous person in 2 continents, Turtle Island, the place of Sinaloa, Mexico, and the place of Peru, Payeta, Peru. Both my mother and father are ocean people. So where do I live? I live 8 blocks from the beach in Venice and holding on to my 1-bedroom apartment. My religious life was short. At 9 years old, I went out the church on the side door and took my dollar for a plate, and I changed it 50 cents for God and 50 cents for me to have candy. And I sat by the fire that was Robert Kennedy, Eternal Flame, and I sat in the garden, and I felt closer to Creator there than anywhere else. So when they say, oh, God is everywhere, well, yeah. With the religious beliefs, it kind of just dissipated, but I do accept every single person where they're at in their relationship, because I find it easier to share, and I don't need to change anything about that, but have a very good exchange, heart to heart, breath to breath, glass of water to glass of water, and hopefully something yummy to nourish us. So my spirituality saved my life with the Lakota and Dakota ways, the Plains Indians, because they had their ceremony together. And it actually pulled me back into Earth Mother's womb and helped me center myself. It healed me, and it's still somewhat of a process of codependency, narcissism abuse, a lot of things that happened within our family of attempted sexual abuse. So I owe my life to those ways. And what I like about the spirituality that I share is that when we give songs, those are prayers. And so we usually say the name of the person who gifted it to us, the tribe, and we sing it with a memory of them. The other thing is that, quite in common, we're forgetting that we're star people. We're all made of stars. And then we don't get to see them because of all the city lights. So everybody should always take that time to go to that kind of sacred space. And our relatives are always there. And it's all of our ancestors together, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th generation, whispering in our ears when we're asleep and telling us which way to go and kissing us on the forehead. And the last thing I want to say is that women in our cultural basis of our idea of change, every aspect of life, from being born to being a teenager to being a young adult to now being close to being an elder. It's funny because I can go to Canada and I'm an elder. I can go to another state, I'm an elder. Here, California Indians are tough. They have another, you have to be named an elder. But with women, we're supposed to walk in beauty. Instead of all these ads and things we do and things how we're supposed to be young and not falling apart, and gravity takes its own thing, and that's science. So what a better way to embrace that part of our lives. And we put so much on each other as Women Nation that I always pray to remove that. No matter how you eat a tortilla, a bagel, or gluten-free toast, whatever it is you fancy, you do nourish yourself in a special way, and I would rather share the yumminess in a good story and a good song, because that's our prayer. So it's an honor, and I'd like to actually sing a children's song that was gifted by a Mohawk relative out of state New York, and somehow it made it to her family, and her name is Messiah Sweetgrass. She's of many nations, and bridging our relationships to the 4 directions, to the 4 nations, and the 4 colors of the medicine wheel. If that's not represented, then it's not a community, I feel. Like a little hummingbird singing in the morning, chants for happiness. Beauty all around us, beauty all through us, chants for happiness. Like a little hummingbird singing in the morning, chants for happiness. Beauty all around me, beauty all through me, chants for happiness. Thank you.
Thank you. That's beautiful. My name is Reverend Eddie Anderson. I am the senior pastor at McCarty Memorial Christian Church in South Central Los Angeles. I'm also the co-chair of the California Appointments Campaign and a movement leader in Black Lives Matter. This conversation is interesting to me because I am a 3rd generation pastor from the South. When I say South, I mean South Georgia. I was born and raised in Atlanta, but my grandfather and their grandfathers were all ministers. I say grandfathers because women were allowed to be preachers at that time. And so the question around religion and spirituality is unique and different to me because coming from the South where we were stolen from Africa, some sold in from Africa, sent to the place, the port that brought slaves to America and now bears my grandfather's name as reparations. And the form of religion that came was, we already had spirituality. We also already had religion. And so religion is just the practice of the way you express your spirituality. So I'm a Christian minister. I believe in Jesus. And I love Jesus, and I love all of you, no matter your faith or where you come from. Because the Jesus that I follow was a Mediterranean Jew who lived in the middle of oppression and overturned tables and sought to make people free. And so when we talk about God and religion, we're talking about a God who sees and hears the cries of people who are oppressed. And so whenever there is oppression, God always raises up God's people and prophet, which is all of us, because we are all made in God's image, to speak truth to power. Not only speak truth to power, but to be power embodied. And so hearing the conversation brings back to me that there is a heresy around what religion is in America, that it is an aberration. That we have in America, most times, my sister talked about religion and spirituality, is a way that white people try to figure out how manifest destiny was true, and then created a religion around it and called it Christianity. That's not what exactly I read in the text. And so when we as black people were trying to figure out what's going on, we sung songs. And our songs told us exactly who God was. We sung songs like I got shoes, you got shoes. Everybody talking about shoes don't have them. Everybody talking about heaven ain't going there. That wasn't just a song to keep us happy. That was a song about getting free. Right? It was coding and lining. And so spirituality and religion has been my lifeblood and keeps me sane. keeps me moving, working for freedom in our world. And so I think God, what is God? Well, text is clear for me. God is spirit. That's it. You know, God ain't not a dude. God's not a, that's not what it is. No, you know, white bearded dude that they painted in just 15 chapel. That's not God, right? God is a spirit. And they that worship God in spirit and in truth. Keyword truth, meaning there are many truths. Jesus is the way that I find my truth. And that doesn't hurt anyone else's truth. Everyone else's truth is valid as well. But as for me and for the communities in which I lead, Jesus represents an enlightened state of someone who has really understood what it means to be one with God. Jesus prays a prayer. And the text that says, God, I pray that they would know that they will become one as me and you are one. Right? Jesus worked in a world to make us understand that there is more that life requires. And even when you are oppressed, that God has love for you. God cares about you. That is why when you see people in the rights movement, which people love to talk about black religion, right? In the Exodus story, it's because God hears the cries of the oppressed. And so we believe as Christians, as a black Christian, I'll say. I don't know about all of the Christianities. Well, I do, but I mean, you know, I'm not here for that. But we believe as black Christians that God is constantly luring us towards freedom, wholeness, and possibility. We talk about the afterlife. We call heaven, and some people talk about heaven as it's a place over there, and that's good, right? And for my ancestors, they needed a place over there because down here was hell, and that's okay. So when I preach and do eulogies, I always respect the person who's lying before me and where they need to go, right? But heaven is always just being in total communion with God eternally. Hell is always just separation from God. And if God is love, as the scripture says, then anytime you feel yourself separated from love, you are in a hellish experience. And anytime you feel yourself wrapped in love, then you are in heaven. Hence, by Jesus' praise, I pray that you be on heaven as in earth, on earth as it is in heaven. It's not a duality, it's a one being with all of us. So that leads us to the streets, the protests, that leads us to the pulpit to testify and to talk about what Jesus can do for us. And so my practice is, yes, reading scripture daily, because those are the words of ancestors and messengers that God has sent before us. But the word is only as good as what is inside of you, because it must become alive in you. And so it's also living out the word that God has given through many messengers, not just contained in the Bible, actually. Because, you know, in Black Christianity, we quote our poets, we sing our songs, we make sure that we know that God is always still speaking to us, not fixed, but always alive. And it's up to us to wrestle with the understanding that God is trying to reveal and manifest with us.
Is this on? Oh. So thank you so much. I'm so honored to be sitting between the two of you and among all of you. My name is Sharon Brous. I'm a rabbi here in LA. And I want to, it occurs to me as I hear my friend, Reverend Anderson speak, I moved out to Los Angeles from New York as a young rabbi, and I was invited to church in Pasadena by Reverend Ed Bacon, who became a very dear friend of mine and really heroic in many ways, and a leader in the work of bringing people from all different backgrounds and communities together. And on Christmas Eve, he would invite his Jewish and Muslim friends to come and sit in the front pew and to be part of his Christmas celebration, because he said he couldn't fully live into his Christianity without having us present as well. He wasn't trying to make us Christian. He realized that we all have different paths to the Holy One. And that night, the first time I went, he started to tell the story of Christmas. And it was something I'd never heard before told this way. He said that Christmas was ultimately the story of a couple that was so poor and so cast out from society that she is screaming in labor pains, and not one person in the inn would open up the door and give up their bed for her to give birth in dignity. And that all of Christian history from that moment forward, from that birth of that child, was an attempt at what we would call tikkun, a redemption effort to try to make up for casting people out the way that couple and that baby had been cast out. And I was a young rabbi, and I was sitting in the seat thinking, God, that's a powerful story. And it's not my story, but I have a similar story that takes me to the same place that his story takes him. And I recognized in that moment that my story was the story of Yetziat Mitzrayim, the story of the Exodus from Egypt, that the story that really sits at the heart of the Hebrew Bible, which is the source of not only great strength, but also the foundation narrative of all of our rituals and our liturgy as a Jewish people, the story that for hundreds of years we were oppressed and humiliated and degraded and enslaved, and then in partnership with the Holy One, able to walk toward freedom. And that story doesn't end with us entering the Promised Land. It enters with us walking toward the Promised Land. And the idea is that all of us are still part of the narrative that will help us cross that border, to become Ivrim, crossovers, people who are able to actually enter what our rabbis and political theorists too call a sacred space that is a counter-Egypt, not because of the Egypt that is today, but the mentality of Mitzrayim, the narrow place that allowed people to degrade and enslave other human beings, is a mentality that lives on. And all of us are called to move from that place of narrowness into a place of expansiveness. For me, the question number 10 about the movement or the difference between religion and morality is that if the function of religion is to help all of us understand that we are children of the Holy One, and therefore every one of us holds innate dignity and worth as a human being, then the practice of morality is building a society that actually reflects that value, not only for each of us as individuals, but for all of us as a collective. And I think this is why this moment that we're living in right now is so painful for so many of us, because we see that those core values of dignity, of infinite worth, of equality, of uniqueness, of equity, of justice are just being trampled on and made a mockery of. And the question is not how do I find personal spiritual connectedness, but how does my personal spiritual connectedness help me ally with and partner with others who are also looking to create a society that actually reflects those core values that we share. So it's an incredible honor to stand in partnership with so many who, because of our own sacred narratives, the stories that are whispered to us by our ancestors over the course of generations, these very different stories are driven to the same heart, to the belief that every human being is created with some core fundamental holiness and deserves to live with that holiness made manifest in a society that can actually lift all of us up. And I believe that's the great strength that we all hold, and sometimes it unfortunately takes really terrible realities outside in order for us to recognize the strength that we have inside and feel like this gathering and these movements over the course of the last couple of years are really allowing us to see what perhaps we couldn't see before, which is how our sacred stories are bringing us to be able to really see one another and lift one another up. So thank you.
Fantastic. We have sound. Okay. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu, which translates into may peace be felt deeply within you and the mercy and compassion and blessings of God be bestowed on you in your innermost heart. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي. That is a prayer that was made by Prophet Moses when he was tasked with going to Pharaoh, who was an oppressive, tyrannical ruler, and to speak truth to him. Unfortunately, we have many examples of pharaohs in our day and age. So the scripture always rings true no matter what time you're in. But that roughly translates into, God, please make my chest firm. Please ease my path forward. Please remove the knots from my tongue so that they may understand me. And it's a tradition for Muslims to say that. It's called dua, or a prayer supplication to God before we're about to speak, because we recognize that a lot of the times when we speak, that's inspiration from God and not coming from within our own selves and our own genius. And so I want to take a moment, just because I've been sitting for a while, to have us all stand up and close our eyes. And I just want you to think about why you're here right now and what brought you here. We can all just do that for a moment. Thank you so much. And if we can, I'll have a seat. So first, I just wanted to thank everyone for the wisdom and the openness of heart and mind that I've witnessed here. I think a lot of the times when we talk about worship and religion, it brings up a lot of feelings for a lot of people, feelings of insecurity and hurt, sometimes certainty, absolute certainty, arrogance, deep humility. And I think the way that worship has been removed from the equation in a lot of spaces outside of here. I mean, I can feel it when I hesitate before saying, I'm fine, thank God, right? I feel odd saying God now. And then I think to myself, why should I feel odd saying God, right? I mean, that's what I believe in. That's my whole reason for being. But it feels strange to say in a lot of spaces, and that's hard to admit and sad to admit. But then coming to a space like this where you all have been so open, having your guards down. I know this is a really vulnerable topic for so many people. So to be able to share your truths, I just gained so much even from that popcorn exercise and the things that you all wrote. I think what I mainly noticed, going back to what Gina had asked about connections that I made, was that I recognized a lot of people were thinking about, for them, belief is trusting in a power or something that is greater than themselves. And I think that that's something that we all crave and connect to, that we always know that we'll let ourselves down, that people will let us down. And how do we grapple with that in this world, right? What is our reason for being? And I think, for me, what it makes me think of is we all want to believe in something that is so much greater than ourselves, that gives us that power and strength to continue forward. And I think that's why, for me, that's why I'm here, just to grapple with that. For me, that's God, who has 99 names in our religion, among which, for me, that resonate with me right now are the one who has infinite wisdom, because I find myself often at this time in my life at a loss for what to do next and where to go next. And so I rely upon his infinite wisdom and mercy to guide me. And so I think just thinking about that power outside of ourselves, we feel that in so many moments. In our moments where we are heaving sobs and crying and wondering if anyone will ever hear us. And we feel that there's something, right? There is something. When we're looking out at the ocean and admiring its beauty. And I had talked about this with Lydia, when we look out at the ocean, that feeling, you feel something bigger than yourself. What is that? And I think the whole purpose of religion and worship is to try to connect to that, understand it, and then understand our relationship to that. For me, I am Muslim, Islam, a religion with a lot of baggage and misunderstanding in the West, absolutely. And so to me, I don't really acknowledge or think about any of that. To me, Islam is just my way of submitting to God's will and trying to understand my purpose in this world. Islam is really meant to perfect my character in how I treat people, and the rituals are only as important as how they change and shape the way that I behave outside of the ritualistic acts. So who am I in between my 5 prayers to other people? And we do pray 5 times a day, and taking that time to reflect and reconnect. What have I done wrong? Have I wronged people? Have I wronged myself? And how can I right those wrongs? To me, I believe that as I increase in faith, I should increase in smiles and love and open-mindedness. And sadly, I think the reality for a lot of people is we find that there's a lot more increase in closed-mindedness and frowns as people become more religious or more strict. I think that, for all intents and purposes, and for lack of a better word, is whack. And is not the way. You can also tell I'm a high school teacher in East Los Angeles, and so I hear so many times a day, "Miss, that's whack." And so I just kind of use that word now. It's great. It works for everything. Besides something like that. But yeah, so to me, I think it's just a way to connect to my Creator. And again, as my brother was saying over there, and we're all brothers and sisters. We all come from the stars, from the same place. I mean, we really are just the shared humanity. But as my brother was saying, to me, this is the way that I seek out truth. Islam is my way of being, my way of living. But it very much invites me to listen to other people and give every human their dignity, and to think about the ways that we're connected. And to have beautiful speech and manners and character, and to always strive for that, to always strive to be better than my worst self, always and all the time. So this might have felt very just theoretical and abstract, but to me, that's the best way I could describe it to you. Thank you for listening to the show.
So I have a question for us to consider. We're also going to hear from another faith that is here with us today in a large group that many people are like, what is that? So we're going to hear from them in 1 second. But one of the things I want for us to think about and consider, for those of us who have been listening and really taking in what we've heard today, and this is a question for me, and maybe it's been answered, and I just want to bring it up again for those who may not have had the question for themselves, and that is, are all of our gods the same? We might have different practices and roads and ways in which to get or be, but when we think of spirituality, Creator, God, is it really all the same? That's just a question. So what I'd like to do now is have a brother or a sister, I'm not sure who, but someone who's going to talk a little bit about the Baha'i faith, which I most recently had a really challenging trip to Palestine, and while I was there, and in the part that they call Israel, I was in Haifa, which is a city, and there is this most gorgeous, I would say from sort of quasi-Eastern / little European colonial building and grounds with gardens, and it's just omnipotent and magnificent. And when I said, what is that? They said, that's the Baha'i Gardens, which has now become one of the, 7 wonders of the world or something. Anyway, with that faith and a lot of question, I would love from someone from the Baha'i faith to share a little bit with us today.
Hi, my name is Anissa. I'm a Baha'i, should I stand? It's also funny, so in the Baha'i faith, we don't have clergy, we don't have any sort of hierarchical leadership from individuals. So even amongst ourselves, we were going back and forth, you talk, no, you talk, who's gonna talk? So when Gina told someone to stand, the mic was in my hand, and so now here we are. But I am a member of the Baha'i community, and I think this question of, are all of our gods the same? Do all of our prayers go to the same source? Are all of our souls connected? Are they of the same matter or material or whatever it might be? My answer as a Baha'i would be yes. If people in the room are not familiar with what the Baha'i faith is, the Baha'i faith is a independent religion. It's a global religion. We believe in the oneness of mankind, in unity above all things, that the elimination of prejudices should be our priority, that our spiritual health and transformation and service is not just for our own well-being, but so that we are better equipped to help others. We believe that it is through investment in our communities, our individual communities, that we can see the realization of these spiritual qualities, these attributes of God that we have in ourselves, but we just need to work to develop. We believe in a concept called progressive revelation, which is that all the religions of God are facets of one God, of one faith. There's a quote in the writings that says, "This is the changeless faith of God, eternal in the past, eternal in the future." And so as Baha'is, we believe that all of these prophets of God, Jesus, Muhammad, Buddha, Zoroaster, Krishna, Abraham, Moses, the ones whose names have not been retained, they are all messengers of God. But that as humanity grows and develops and progresses, so then do certain attributes of the teachings which we're tasked to carry out. So there's this thread of love that carries throughout all of these, and the spirit is always the same. But that as things change, so do the way we manifest faith. And so there are things like that are core at the center of the faith, things like the equality of men and women, harmony of science and religion, independent investigation of the truth, elimination of extremes of poverty and wealth, the importance of education, et cetera, that are spiritual principles. And so all that we talk about in this Congress of acknowledgement and equity and justice we really see these as spiritual concepts. And it's interesting that Gina mentioned the Baha'i Gardens in Haifa. So I actually did a year between high school and college where I was a gardener at those gardens. I'd encourage you to Google it because it really is incredible. It's a UNESCO World Heritage Site. But I think serving as a gardener there really transformed the way that I understand my faith in a couple different ways. One was through community, so also volunteering in various capacities, people who are serving the direct sort of operation of this space, which is the spiritual and administrative center of the Baha'i faith. There are also people who are dedicated to social action projects that are happening all over the world, who are helping to give resources for schools, who are helping to educate agricultural communities, et cetera, and to be in a space where there are people from over 70 countries who are working alongside each other is really powerful, regardless of language or economic background. But then also to see to be in beauty was really powerful and incredible, and to see that beauty was always linked with practicality. So even as a gardener, to see that irrigation innovations were made there, being a desert climate, that water was used very carefully. And then because of the sort of very tense environment in which it exists, where it was first built and established as Palestine, but then things happened, power changed hands by force, and now it's known as Israel. But the water itself is sourced from an independent location as not to be part of this conflict. And so I think I could go on and on, but I think there's a quote, "To be a Baha'i simply means to love all the world." And so I'll end at that. Thank you.
So we'll be wrapping up in just a bit. There's so much to think about, and so many wonderful things that were said. I want to give us all ourselves a round of applause for engaging in conversation and talking. So I would like to offer the mic up to anyone, just for a few, not many and not long, please, but a few reflections on how we've come together today.
I have a quick, I really enjoyed and loved hearing from everybody in all of these faiths, and I actually identify as an atheist, and in that I still have that same understanding that I just don't know. So I just was curious if anybody had any thoughts about the idea of
like the question I got, what is God, and just not being respectful of religions and of faith and of all of those things, but having my own sort of atheist ideals in this context.
Could I just build on that, because I was thinking similarly of secular humanism and Buddhism and faith traditions that don't hold a central God at the center of their spirituality. And I think that's what speaks to me, and it's been very illuminating hearing heartfelt I'll say invitations to understand this range of faiths. But I felt it was important to thank you for what you just said, that we make space in the room for non-believers, questioners, non-deity based faiths, and respect of our land and nature, and that really one spirit that I do believe imbues everything. Beautiful.
Yes. I just want to say that I really appreciate being in a space of thinking about religion or worship or spirituality as embracing dignity and humanity and love. I work in the social justice sphere where one interpretation of religion is being used to batter and oppress. And that hasn't actually come up here. And so, now it has, right? And so I just appreciate this conversation very much.
Yes, I definitely want folks to share. Hold on a second.
I wanted first to just personally, I really appreciated your early share about how your religion talks about how you position yourself in your life. I think that's what my personal experience of having to deal with depression and chemical dependency and looking for a path that would liberate me from both of those and give me peace has been one that speaks to how can I dwell in gratitude, because that gives that I find that very liberating. My focus, I'm responsible for what I choose to focus on, and it's a combination of focusing on gratitude and being of service wherever I can be. And those two things have been for a relatively short period of time, or in proportion to my time on the planet, but long enough to make me feel secure. They've been liberating for me. I'm no longer dealing with depression or the need to escape. And I find that it's a non-deity type of religion, but it may reflect something that I think we're all seeking, which is how to be of service and how to be grateful and feel grateful when I wake up in the morning. Same thing.
I was just going to say that when I think of religion, I keep hearing this word in here, love. Martin Luther King, not shortly before he unfortunately was assassinated, said that Jesus Christ taught us, and he was really referring to religion, that we must always love. Like and love are two different things, but we must always be about love. We may not always understand each other's social teachings, or they may not all gel with us, right? But we're still supposed to be of love. When he said he had a dream, that is Dr. King, he was not talking to just two groups of people, white folks and black folks. He was talking about all people. His dream was that we would all unite in the spirit of love that Christ taught him. And so when I think about it, I think about rooms like this where we are engaging in the spirit of love. I think about the 12 years I had the bounty and privilege to spend at the University of Southern California's campus in the Office of Religious Life, where we had folks from different religious traditions and folks who represented secular humanists, as you said, or atheists, or whatever. You come as you are into that room and just be about love. And it wasn't a space of judgment, it was a space of love. And if we can continue to focus on love, we can find commonality, we can find common ground. And I saw that with our students, because I would come into the religious center at night, and it was the spirituality in that space was all about love, whether they were Muslim students or Christian students, so on and so forth. It was just about love. And I think if we get back to just really finding that focus around just loving your fellow human being and stop focusing on all the other stuff, that mirage that we see out in this world, we're going to really grow.
I think what that young man just said was the absolute. We all are here because we all seek truth. Being of flesh, you want to feel worthy. You want to feel that you are here doing something good. You want to feel needed. That is being of flesh. Being of God, which is being of soul, which is one. All religion is one. Different names. We all have different names. We're all named different. But that is of flesh. That is a word that we think we need to communicate with. And that is your brain. Your brain is working, sometimes overloaded with thoughts that you should just drop. Because the truth is here and will always be here. When this stops, this is still here. When this goes, the soul then is of eternity. And God is the soul. You are God. So relax and enjoy the breath of God, because that's why you are here, through the breath of God.
Let's all breathe together. We got some good air up in here. Good energy that's flowing around. So let's take advantage of it. Let's smell it. Let's taste it. Let's touch it. Let's put all our senses forth. Breathe in. Release it to Let's breathe in again. Release it to Breathe in one more time. Release it to let it be. Sing with me. We let the love wash over us. We let it be. We let. Sometimes you just gotta release the desire to be in control. So we let the love wash over. We let
So that's the choreography, okay? Show them how we do it. We let the love wash over us. Let it wash over us. We let it be. I needed my hands. We let the love, we let the love wash over. Let it wash, everybody. Let it wash over. We let it be. Come walk around and share your love. We let the peace. Wash over us. Wash over us. We let it be. We let the joy. We let the joy wash over us. We let it be. Just let the love. We let the love wash over us. We let it be. We let the peace, put the peace up, put the peace up, put it up. The peace, wash over us, all over us. We let it be. Yes. Let the love, we let. Put the love up, put the love up. Believe it, because it's real, it's all over us. We let it be, yes. One more time, we let the love wash over us, all over us. We let it be. Oh, breathe that in, y'all. Come on, Jim. Wow, look what you did. Look what you all are doing. This is so important what is happening. Because we're all talking. We're all talking with each other. We're sharing ideas. We're sharing feelings. We're sharing love. You know, we had prepared another song. But we always be ready. But love was so ever present in this room. It just needed to be acknowledged. So just thankful for all of you coming prepared and being willing to share. Being willing. That's what's required, is a willingness to learn, to be open, to share, and love in all kinds of ways. Whether it's writing on the wall, speaking to someone, being kind. That's my religion, being kind. I like that. And singing, and just being with each other. So, thank you both.
Well, what I would really love is for us to actually take about a solid, it's going to be tough for some of us perhaps, but a solid 2.5 minutes which we will time, and I will tell you when it's over, for us to be in silence.
Yes.